I'm here to be an all-time great.
You now rocking with the best.
Purple yellow, purple yellow, purple yellow, purple yellow.
The Lakers repeat back-to-back titles.
Welcome to the Big Baby Jonathan Sports Podcast.
Oh, he's smoking hot.
The latest Laker news.
Another great Showtime feed.
The greatest Lakers show.
This is going to be legendary for a long time.
This is the Big Baby Jonathan Sports Podcast.
Lakers all day.
Go Lakers!
What's good, everybody? It's your boy Big Baby here from Big Baby Sports. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, turn on those post notifications for each and every podcast. I got a very special guest, the radio play-by-play announcer for Los Angeles Lakers, John Ireland. John Ireland, thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule, man. Welcome to Big Baby Sports.
Hey, Jonathan, how are you?
I'm doing great, man. Thank you for tuning in. And first and foremost, man, just want to thank you for coming on, man. And I had you as my goal when I first started this podcasting journey in 2016, man. I had you on my list of goals, and welcome, man. Let's get it started.
Well, it only took us 8 years, but I'm glad
right.
We got
it it's all good. 8 years, man. But my first question is, man, what inspired you to do your career, man? Like, tell us a little bit about that. Like, what inspired you to become a broadcaster?
So when I was a kid, probably a lot like you, I watched any sports that were on TV. You know, like whatever was on, I was watching. It didn't matter what the sport was. Mm-hmm. And as you can probably tell, if you followed my career at all, I like to talk. And so I would actually, and I kind of credit my parents with putting up with an obnoxious 10-year-old, I would turn down the sound on the TV and pretend I was announcing the games. Mm. So I wanted to do this since I was a kid. And when I we had a campus TV station when I was in high school. I went to high school in Newport Beach at Corona Del Mar High. And so I started kind of flirting with it there. When I got to UCLA, I kind of wanted to be a sportscaster as a career goal. So I did all the things you're supposed to do. And then what's typical in this business, Jonathan, is if you embark on any type of a broadcasting journey, you got to go to some small towns first. Unless you look like a supermodel or your dad owns a TV station, you've got to go kind of pay your dues. So in my case, that was Monroe, Louisiana for 6 months, Beaumont, Texas for 4 years, San Diego for 5. And I got a job at KCAL in 1995, and I've been here ever since.
Yeah, and also, too, I'm trying to do what you're doing. I started in 2016, but when I was younger, me and my dad back in the day, like when John Elway, Terrell Davis, I would be interviewing my dad, you know, like as a broadcaster after the game. So I'm like, John Elway, man, what'd you think of the game? And my dad would imitate, you know, what he saw out there. And, you know, it's something I love. And even, you know, when I was a kid, too, a little kid, my mom was like, you're going to be interviewing people when you get older. And
look at us now. She was, you know, the moral of that story is listen to your mom.
Yep. You know, I appreciate you, Mom. You know, also, too, it's like I'm just very passionate about what I do. I love what I do. You know, like I first started in 2016, but it was tough, you know, first starting, going through the ups and downs, but I love what I do. So I kind of like going through the growing pains to get better and learn, you know.
When you started in 2016, has it always been a Lakers-related podcast, or were you doing other stuff?
First, I was doing Lakers/NBA, and I just did Lakers. Now I'm doing Sparks content as well. I like Sparks, and then I'm gonna.
Yeah, I feel bad about Cameron Brink. We had her on. Lauren Douglas, who's the PR director for the Sparks.
Yeah,
used to be the broadcast coordinator for the Lakers. So she was in charge of Bill McDonald and Stu Lance and Michael Thompson and me and Mike Trudell and that whole gang. So we got to know her really well, and so now we're all kind of rooting for her and trying to help her out. And we had Cameron Brink on right before like her first home game, and she just gets it. She's obviously a really good player, super marketable, and you know, to go down as a rookie she seems to be in good spirits about it. But and even she admitted that day that they're probably in a rebuild this year. Like it'd be unrealistic to pick the Sparks to win the title, especially when you know teams like New York and Connecticut and Vegas are also loaded. But she won me over that day. I just think she's really cool. And so because of Lauren and because of Cameron Brink, I'm rooting for the Sparks. But I think, and I don't know if you agree, but I think they're probably a year or two away.
Yeah, most definitely. They're a year or two away. And it's unfortunate she got injured, but they have a bright future. So Sparks, you guys are going to be playing for championships years to come, man. And shout out to Artest Effect Podcast. Shout out to Daniel Artest. That's Ron Artest's brother. Shout out to you for joining, man. And also, too, man, give us a story about Kobe Bryant, man, like the late great Kobe. That give us a story about Kobe, man. Like, what do you like? Give us a story about Kobe.
Well, I've got about 100 of them, and most of them I've told on my radio show. But I'll give you a couple if you'll allow me to tell two.
Go ahead.
I think that people forget just how global Kobe, the Lakers are a global brand. And if you become the face of the Lakers, it kind of sets you up for the rest of your life. I mean, going back to Jerry West and Elgin Baylor and running all the way through Magic and Kareem, and then Shaq and Kobe, and then Shaq and Pau. So, Jonathan, one year I was doing live shots for KCAL after a playoff game in Houston. It was a Sunday day game.
Mm-hmm.
And we thought that the series might go 5. That was the best of 5 series. And the Lakers won. The game 4 was on a Sunday. But we had to wait and fly home on Monday because we didn't know that we were going to end the series on Sunday. So basically, when the game ended at like 5 o'clock on a Sunday, I hung around, did a couple of live shots, and I walked back to the hotel, which is across the street from the arena in Houston. And I walk in, and the bar is packed with Laker people. It's like one of those typical hotel lobby bars.
Mm-hmm.
And so Kobe's over in the corner, and he motions to me to come over there. And so I walk over into the corner, and he goes, "John, do you want a beer?" And I said, "Kobe, you don't have to buy me a beer." And he kind of smirks and looks at me like that was a dumb question. And I looked, and he points down. And I looked down at his feet, and I counted them, Jonathan. There were 17 opened but full beers. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, "You throwing a party?" And he goes, "No." And before he could tell me what was going on, a guy walks up to him from somewhere else in the bar, hands him a beer, and says, "I've always wanted to buy you a beer. You're my favorite player." Kobe says, "Thank you very much," puts it down on the ground. That's number 18. And so people were just would walk up to him, and just because they wanted to pay him a compliment or be nice to him. And so he said, "Take as many of these as you want and get the TV crew over here, because there's no way I'm drinking all these." And that was kind of Kobe's life in a nutshell. Wherever he went, he was kind of like the Pied Piper. The second story I was going to tell you was one year we're in Minnesota. And in Minnesota, when we go, it's super cold. We normally go there in like December and January. And, everybody knows Minnesota around that time of year is 5 degrees. But that city, downtown Minneapolis, is filled with what I would call habit trails. They're catwalks. So you can walk anywhere in the city without ever having to go outside. So instead of exercising or going for a run, what I would do is just walk through the habit trails for about an hour just to get exercise. So one day I'm walking through the mall in Minneapolis, and Kobe's walking through there. And Kobe would never walk alone. He would always take one of our security guys with him, and just in case people came up to him. So he would always have people with him. And and I see a girl. She's like at a makeup store, and a big girl. This girl was probably over 200 pounds. And she sees Kobe from behind her cash register. Mm-hmm. And she freaks out. And she runs from the back of the store out to the concourse where Kobe is walking. She's, "Kobe Bryant, you're my favorite." And she takes a full header. She was, she wasn't paying attention. She tripped over a curb, goes face first into the ground, and gets up, and her whole face is completely bloodied. I'm sure she had to go to the dentist that day. And Kobe looks down and says, "Oh my gosh, are you okay?" She goes, "Oh, I'm great. I've always wanted to meet you. Can I take a picture?" He said, "After that fall, absolutely." And so and I took the picture for him, somewhere on that girl's phone. I wish I would have had her send it to me, because it would have been a good visual aid as I tell you this story.
Yeah.
There's a picture of her in the mall with Kobe. Kobe has his arm around her, and her face is completely bloodied. I mean, like she didn't know how bad it was. So, but she didn't care. She's got this huge smile on her face, blood all over, and she got this picture with Kobe. And so I think that all these stories, what they say is that he was as famous of a Laker as anybody, as famous as Magic, as famous as Shaq, Kareem, Jerry West. I think if you were going to have a face of the Lakers contest, that Kobe might win it. And if you think about it, Jonathan, I always say this, that the Lakers have the most storied history of any NBA franchise in terms of players. If I said to you, okay, let's play a made up game, but you get, for the sake of this game, you get everybody in the prime of their career. I'll take the Laker guys. You can have the whole rest of the league. Okay. So the team I could put out there would be Magic and Kobe at guards, LeBron, Shaq, and Wilt up front, or Kareem. And I haven't even gotten to James Worthy. I haven't gotten to Karl Malone. I haven't gotten to Anthony Davis. I mean, you could field one of the greatest teams of all time. And I don't care what team you came up with, Michael Jordan, Oscar Robertson, Bill Russell, Hakeem Olajuwon. My team could play with you. And I just have one franchise and you have 29. I mean, that's how lucky Laker fans have been over the years. And that's how great the Laker lineage has been, ever since the team came here in 1960.
Yeah, most definitely, man. Kobe, man, is a great story. Like for me, he actually followed me on Twitter back in the day, and he actually DM'd me, "Keep up the great work, big baby. Love what you do. Keep inspiring." I'm like,
I hope you still have that tweet somewhere.
I do. I screenshot it. I'm like looking at it like, is this real? And then I'm like, every time I want to look at my phone, Kobe texted me, "Let's go." I'm excited and stuff. It's just Kobe's one of the greatest icons of all time, great Laker of all time. And speaking of Lakers, man, let's get into the draft, man. How do you feel like the Lakers did in the draft so far with what they did in the draft?
They stole Dalton Connect, just stole him. If you looked at ESPN's mock draft the day before, or even the day of the draft, the first day of the draft on Wednesday, they had Jonathan Givony, who does that for them, had Connect sixth in the draft, and he slipped to 17th. And I started calling around saying, okay, what don't I know? Does this guy have injury issues? Did he not interview well? And what came back, Jonathan, was the only reason he dropped is that he's 23. And so a lot of teams like to draft young, but it's like they weren't paying attention to what happened last year. So last year, a lot of teams drafted young guys. We did it. We drafted Jalen Hood-Schifino with the 17th pick. The guys who went right after him were all the guys who were older. Jaime Jaquez, Brandon Pajemski, those dudes. And they were the best, most impactful players last year in the NBA. So I think Connect is going to step right in and play as a rookie, which is rare for the Lakers. Not even Kobe, if you remember, Jonathan, played as a rookie. He was playing behind Eddie Jones and Nick Van Exel. And I think he averaged maybe 10, 15 minutes a game. I think Dalton Connect could average 25 minutes a game. He's a good shooter. The thing about our team is because Anthony Davis and LeBron get double teamed all the time, if you could catch and shoot quickly, and this kid can, there'll be a place for you. I'm friends with a lot of people over in the Laker offices, and somebody told me as soon as they knew they were getting Connect, JJ Redick started drawing up plays for him in the Lakers war room. I mean, so JJ's really excited. I think Connect is great. And then yesterday taking Bronny, I think that it's weird to me, the blowback that Bronny's getting, that the Lakers are getting for this. Jonathan, the 55th pick almost never makes it in the NBA. Almost never. My guess is if I asked you to tell me all the names of the 55 picks in the history of the NBA, you'd have trouble coming up with any. I know I would. It is, for me, a really cool story. And maybe I'm a little biased because I'm a dad. My son's 22, Bronny's 19. And my son had a medical episode when he was a teenager, like Bronny did last year. And think about this, 11 months ago, that kid's heart stopped. His parents didn't know if he was ever going to play basketball or even live. And now 11 months later, he gets drafted and has a chance. And that's all this is a chance to play with his dad and be the first time in NBA history. I think it's a really cool story. But people seem to be focusing on the fact that it's nepotism. He wouldn't have been drafted if he wasn't LeBron's son. He only played 1 year at USC and he only averaged 4 points a game. They leave out the part that he had a heart episode and was lucky to get on the court at all. To me, the 55th pick is where you take a chance. It's where you just say, this guy's probably not going to make it, but what could we do to maybe turn this into something? And I think the Lakers have done that. So I'm excited to have that as part of our story. I look forward to covering. Bronny's a really nice kid, really respectful. You've heard Rob talk about him, that he can handle the spotlight. Like, it's not going to be a big deal to him if he gets 25 microphones put in his face, because it's been around him his whole life. He's kind of had life in a fishbowl. So I'm excited about both of these guys. And I'll end your question with this. Yahoo did a live panel during the draft, and they graded every team's draft picks after the first round on Wednesday. They gave one A+, one out of 30 teams, and they gave it to the Lakers. So Laker fans should feel good about what this looks like on paper. Now, of course, Connect and Bronny got to show up. They got to play. They got to compete. But I feel really good about what they did.
Yeah, me too. I feel like Connect is going to come in, play that great defense, shoot the ball really well. And I feel like that too. And also Bronny, like you said, man, like it's unfortunate he had to go through that. And the James family's happy now. No, Lakers are part of history once again, and LeBron James too, if he decides to stay here and stuff. Hopefully he does. We got one more day until we find out if LeBron's going to opt in or opt out.
Yeah, I would be shocked, Jonathan, if he does not opt out. Here's what I think is going to happen. I think he's going to opt out. And let's be honest about what we're talking about here. Part of the reason why Bronny was an attractive pick for the Lakers is it's a favor to LeBron. It gives him something to think about if he was at all. I don't think he was, but if he was thinking about maybe talking to some other teams or going someplace else, now he's going to have to think, well, do I really want to pass up on this chance to play 1 year with Bronny, maybe the only year that I get to do it? Hopefully it lasts more than a year. But I think part of this was throw a bone to LeBron, show that we care about him and his family, and entice him to stay. I think he was going to stay anyway, but now it's a little bit of a LeBron insurance. So that's another reason why they picked him. Yeah,
I agree 200%. It's going to be interesting to see as well. Also, D'Angelo Russell too. We got D'Lo, has a deadline too. How do you feel
Jonathan, that's the key. That's if you're a Laker fan, what you want to pay attention to over the next 48 hours, really the next 24, we'll know by tomorrow, is what does D'Angelo do? Now, I'm in the minority here. I would like to see the Lakers keep D'Lo. I've gotten close to him. I know him really well. We both loved at golf. The two guys I talked to the most on the team are D'Lo and Austin Reeves, and they have a really good relationship, and they enjoy playing together in the backcourt. I think it's really hard to find a guy who shoots 41% from three and is going to give you 19 points a game. I mean, if he leaves, that's hard to do. Now, having said that, in 2024 in the NBA, it's hard to make a trade. It's hard to add free agents. You have to constantly be watching that cap number. If he opts in, I think he's going to opt out. But if he opts in, he becomes a prime candidate for a trade if the Lakers can do it. But if he doesn't get traded, if he opts in and doesn't get traded, I'm happy. I want to see him come back. I know he didn't have a great playoff series, but I think he's got it in him. I'm a fan of his. And if he does opt out, I hope the Lakers will at least consider re-signing him. I think they will, but you got to see where all the other, there's a whole bunch of dominoes that need to fall here. Where is Paul George going? Where is Klay Thompson going? Where is KCP going? I mean, all these things are connected. So, but D'Lo is the key to everything for the Lakers, because they can't really do anything until they know what his salary situation is. If he opts in, that's 19 million more. If he opts out and they can talk LeBron into taking a little more less than the max, it would give the Lakers the full mid-level exception, and they could go out and maybe make a run at a guy like Klay Thompson if his market drops. So there's a whole bunch of moving parts here.
Yeah, most definitely. It's going to be interesting to see what the Lakers do. And also, too, man, like, how do you feel J.J. Redick's going to do in his first year with the Lakers, man? What's the expectations for the Lakers head coach for J.J. Redick?
Well, I think Laker fans' expectations are that he does better than Darvin, which, and Darvin went to the Western Conference Finals in his first year. And then last year they finished the 8th seed, but they win 4 more games and they're in the top 4. So I think JJ, we interviewed him the other day after the press conference, and what he comes across as, Jonathan, is super smart. And I also think he gets it. He understands the job he has taken. Mm-hmm. He understands what the challenge is. He knows it's a win or you're fired job, which everybody that works for the Lakers, we know that. Do the job well or you're out. And I think he's up for that challenge. I have a feeling that he's going to be really good at this. Now, all that is a feeling. We've got to see how it goes. But if you watch any of those Mind the Game podcasts with LeBron, you can see he sees the game differently and better than almost anybody else. So I think this has a really good chance to work.
Yeah, me too, man. Just the way that he was talking at the press conference, he's a smart-minded player, and even people say he doesn't have any coaching experience, but he also was in the NBA and got coached by Mike Krzyzewski as well. So I feel like he's going to take that and implement with the Lakers and all that. I'm excited for JJ Redick, man. I know Darvin Ham didn't plan out, but I feel like JJ Redick's going to do good with the Lakers, man. I'm excited for Lakers, man, for this upcoming season.
And over the next couple of days, you'll start to hear names trickle out of who's going to be on that coaching staff. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets guys that have previous NBA head coach experience. So he has somebody on that bench that's been through all this before. I'm biased. I really like to see Scott Brooks on the staff. I know Scott. I help him out with some of his charity events. I think he'd be a good fit for us, but he's just one guy. I mean, somebody called me the other day, goes, do you think they could talk Nate McMillan out of retirement and going on the bench? He'd be another great addition. I mean, Stan Van Gundy is doing pretty well as a sportscaster, but JJ played for him twice, once in New Orleans and once in Orlando. So he's a possibility. So that's the other thing to watch is who's going on that coaching staff, because I think there'll be some prior head coaches on that staff that can help him out.
Yeah, man. Also, too, I was hearing, too, Rajon Rondo, Jarrett Dudley, and the list goes on and on for assistants, man. Like, how would Rondo fit as an assistant here if he decided to come?
Well, Rondo's one of the smartest players I've ever covered. And Rondo also has the respect of LeBron and AD. And that's important in this job. I mean, LeBron and AD are co-captains. Rob Pelinka likes to say he considers himself in a partnership with those guys. It's not your typical GM to player relationship. Rob very rarely tells them what to do. They talk about it and come up with a decision together. And so I think Rondo would be in Rondo and Dudley, by the way. You mentioned Dudley. One thing those two guys have in common, besides being on the bubble championship team, both of them, is that LeBron and AD respect both those guys and like them. And those two guys aren't afraid to tell the truth. And so, a lot of times if you reach the level of a LeBron or an Anthony Davis, you're surrounded with yes men, people that don't want to upset you, don't want to rock the boat, don't want to make you mad. Rondo and Dudley are not like that. Rondo and Dudley will call them out when it's not going well. Those guys like to be coached. There aren't a lot of people that are comfortable telling them what to do, but Rondo and Dudley are two of those guys.
Yeah, most definitely. I feel like Rondo, if he does come here, he would critique LeBron in certain ways. AD, same with Jared Dudley. They have experience because they won the championship together. And speaking of a championship, man, what do you think about the 2020 Los Angeles Lakers championship team? Where does that rank for you in all-time championships for the Lakers?
Well, I've covered 8 finals. That was the weirdest one for sure. But to me, I think, everybody says, should that come with an asterisk because they won it in the bubble? I think if you put an asterisk on that title, it would be because it was harder. I mean, people say, no, they were playing road games. There were no fans. So think about that, Jonathan. What does that mean? It was straight ball. That's it. It was just the best basketball players on the planet battling one-on-one and seeing who could rise to the challenge. And the Lakers did it. And so I will always value that championship as much as any of the others, just because I think it was hard. I mean, imagine this. Let's say you and I get a phone call today and they say, hey, you guys, you got to go to Orlando for 2 months and not see your family and stay quarantined and get COVID tested every day. And then you got to go play basketball games and try and win a title. It's not easy. And they were, and by the way, anybody who's complaining about it, why didn't their team do it? It's like there's a hint of jealousy there every time I hear somebody try and diminish or lessen the bubble title. So I consider that as valuable, if not more so than any of the other ones.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's up there with one of the greatest because what they went through 2020, passing of Kobe Bryant, they great Kobe and the stuff that was going on around the world. The fact that they finished the season was really good. They got the championship. I know people say it was asterisk, but come on. If Milwaukee would have won it, would they have said that? If the Clippers would have won it, if the Celtics would have won it, would they have said that? I don't think so. I think it's because we're the Lakers.
I've gone on this rant before on my radio show, but if you'll allow me to do it for you, there's a grave injustice that happened that year. Rob Pelinka, for people who don't know, was not only best friends with Kobe Bryant, he was Gigi's godfather. Rob and his wife were godparents to Gigi. So put yourself in his shoes. He's a new GM. Kobe's his best friend. Kobe and Gigi, his goddaughter, tragically die in a helicopter crash. We all thought Rob would take a leave of absence. I mean, that's just crushing. He couldn't stay focused on running a basketball team when you have that kind of loss in your life, and everybody would have understood it. Instead, he brought the whole team together. Jonathan, we were all wondering after that crash, after the accident, are we allowed to talk about this? Are we allowed to tell Kobe stories, to tell Gigi stories? Should we, out of respect for Vanessa and the family, should we not bring it up? How do we treat this? How do we get through this? And Rob wrote an email to everybody in the Laker organization. And when I saw it, when I saw the email in my inbox, I thought, he's taking a leave. He's explaining to us that this is too hard and he's going to come back next year. Instead, he said, we are going to get through this together. And I'll never forget this one sentence. He said, because we were all thinking about this, he said, if you are having second thoughts about telling stories about Kobe and Gigi, don't. We are now the torchbearers of their legacies. Tell people about them. Let's not have people forget about what they meant to us and what they meant to the city. And so now when somebody like you asks me a question about them, I'm completely comfortable talking about how Kobe had the greatest work ethic of anyone I think I've ever seen, how Gigi probably would have gone to UConn and would have been like probably right now in the WNBA. And we think about him, we miss him every day. And it was Rob that gave us the pathway. He showed us the way out. And he got one executive of the year vote. They gave it to the guy at the Clippers who blew a 3-1 lead in the bubble. And I don't want to diminish anybody else, but think about that whole story I just told you and what Rob Pelinka did. He got us through this. And then after he wrote that email and COVID hit, Rob went with the team down to Orlando, stayed with him in the bubble. He was in the gym rebounding because we didn't have enough coaches. How is that guy not the executive of the year? And it's because it's political, and it's because he used to be an agent. Mm-hmm. And if you used to be an agent, everybody hates you because he probably got the better of the guys who are doing the voting, or he probably didn't return a lot of reporters' calls when they needed information. So Rob may never win it. I understand that. I'm not naive. But if you were ever going to look at a big picture and you consider everything I just told you, how does that guy get one executive of the year vote? I mean, how?
It's crazy, man. It's probably because it's the Lakers. If Rob Pelinka was on a different team,
right,
like
I agree with
Toronto or Sacramento, he'd probably get a bunch of votes. But as soon as it's the Lakers, you know what I mean? It's like, that's not cool for them to do that. It's like,
yeah. And by the way, I told that I did this rant on the radio once on a day that Rob was on our show, and he doesn't care. He's like, I'm not in this to win executive of the year. He goes, it's more important that, I kind of uphold the Laker legacy. One thing, Jonathan, about working for the Lakers, and this applies to me, it applies to Rob, it applies to everybody that's currently employed by the team. It even applies to Jeannie. No one individual is bigger than the brand. The Laker brand is extremely unique. Mm-hmm. I mean, it is all over the world. There are Laker fans wherever I've gone. I mean, I've gone to Italy. I've gone to Ireland. I've been all over the world, and I'm always stunned. People will go, John Ireland, what are you doing here? And that's all because I'm tied to the Laker brand. And one thing that when you get these jobs, I have Chick Hearn's job. Okay, Chick Hearn's the greatest basketball announcer of all time. There's a statue of him outside. All of us take great pride in making sure we don't disrespect the brand. We're a big tent with lots of different colors and shapes and sizes and religions and cultures. And the only thing that you need to come into our tent is that you like the Lakers. If you're a Laker fan, you're with us. And nobody's more important than that. Nobody is above it. Nobody should ever disrespect it. And if you get a chance to have a job like mine, where, I've been affiliated with the Lakers since 1999, that's the most important thing, is that you protect the brand, you don't disrespect it, and you make sure that tent stays open to everybody. And that's what's important to Rob. And so he cares about stuff like that more than he cares about executive of the year. I care about executive of the year because I think he got screwed. But you asked me about it, so that's why I told you that.
Yeah, most definitely, man. He did get one vote. That's crazy, but it's like the fact that he did all that should be like give him his flowers,
Oh,
man.
yeah, and somebody should do a movie on it.
Yeah,
You
they
know,
should.
maybe somebody will. You know,
Yeah.
Ramona's got that clipped TV show. Maybe I can get Ramona to do another TV show about the year the Lakers won the bubble championship.
Hey, man, Ramona Shever can come on Big Baby Sports, man, and she could talk to her story here.
Yeah, she's the best. You should invite her on your show. You'll love her. She's awesome.
Yeah, most definitely, man. Before I get up on out of here, man, we're gonna do a game of describe these players in one word. Describe Kobe Bryant in one word.
Iconic.
Magic Johnson.
Spectacular.
James Worthy.
He might be my favorite Laker of all time. What word would I use to describe James Worthy? James Worthy off the court is probably the nicest guy you will ever meet. Nobody's ever asked me this. What one word would I use to describe James Worthy? I think I would use legendary, because everybody that meets Worthy is going to remember it forever. He's the nicest guy. He's friendly to everybody. He doesn't pull punches. I play golf with him twice a week now because we're both golf addicts, but I would use that word, legendary. He might be my favorite Laker ever.
Jerry West.
Logo. Say no more. I mean, people will be talking about Jerry West 200 years after you and I are gone. Yep. One of a kind.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Stoic. He for a guy that was the all-time leading scorer for as many years as he was, arguably a top 3 player of all time. When you meet him, you feel like you're meeting a statesman or a president. He's very stoic. You don't do a lot of talking, you do a lot of listening because he's led such an extraordinary life. So that's the word I would use.
Michael Thompson.
Funny. I mean, he makes me laugh every single day. And I think he's the best color guy. I'm biased, obviously. I think he's the best color guy in the league. But I don't know if people know how actually hilarious that guy is. He's really funny.
Anthony Davis.
Underrated. People don't know. I mean, I know that he's been first team All-NBA, but he's never won Defensive Player of the Year, never won MVP. Might be the most skilled basketball player in the league today in terms of defense. He can guard 1 through 5. Underrated is what I think about AD.
LeBron James.
LeBron James is probably, he's the hardest one to describe because he does everything well. I think to describe LeBron would be, I'm going to use a word that isn't a description. It's just a thing. He's an eclipse, Jonathan. When you get him on your team, it blocks out all your problems. LeBron's been to the finals, I think 11 times with different teammates. I mean, once you get him, all your problems go away because he can win you a game on a defense. He's like an eclipse in a good way.
Shaq.
Shaq would want me to say Aristotle, because you are what you consistently do. And Shaq is, I've said this before, along with Magic, the best marriage of sports and entertainment I've ever seen. He gets the fact that sports is not a business. It's not a game. It's an entertainment vehicle. And nobody gets that better than Shaq.
Derek Fisher.
Dependable. It's funny you brought him up. I was talking the other day about, we had JJ Redick on, and without Derek Fisher, the Lakers don't win the 2009 title in Orlando, and they don't win the 2010 title in Boston. When Kobe and Powell got double teamed in both of those series, it was Derek Fisher that pulled the Lakers out of the fire. And I don't know if he gets enough credit for that. I think dependability would be what I would use for him.
Ron Artest.
Kind. He, people don't know this because, maybe his most famous moment was Malice in the Palace, but the only championship ring he ever won, the 2010 Laker ring, he auctioned off for mental health. He just auctioned off and gave all the money to a hospital. He's one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. I think he's misunderstood, but I would use the word kind to describe him.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he was on my channel before a couple months ago. He's a great dude,
Yeah, really great.
Let me see here. Pau Gasol.
The humble. He's the nicest famous person I've ever met. He might be one of the most 5 famous athletes ever to come out of Spain. You would never know it. Can I tell you a quick Pau Gasol story?
Go ahead.
He used to play for the Grizzlies in Memphis. Memphis is where St. Jude's Hospital is. I don't know if you know what that is, but it's a hospital where if your kids get sick, particularly they get terminally ill, like get cancer, you can take them to St. Jude's for treatment and you never see a bill. It's completely paid for by donations. So when Pau played for the Grizzlies, he started making visits to St. Jude's, and then he gets traded to the Lakers. So one day we had like a triple overtime game somewhere, like in Detroit, and we had to fly to Memphis the next morning, first thing, and we were all exhausted. And we get to the airport, we get on the ground in Memphis, and all of us are getting on the bus, and I see Pau Gasol go into an SUV. And I said to John Black, my friend who was the Laker PR director, I go, where's he going? He said, every time we come to Memphis, he goes to St. Jude's to visit the kids. And since we're flying home after the game tonight, he wouldn't have any other time to do it except now. And we were all dead tired. And he had a game. He played triple overtime game the night before, and he had a game that night, and he still went to the hospital. That's Pau Gasol right there in a nutshell.
Man, Pau Gasol is arguably up there as one of the greatest Lakers of all time when it comes to big men. Got his jersey retired. Pau Gasol, thank you for everything you do, man. Also, too, Byron Scott.
Byron Scott, I think the way I would describe Byron, how could I do it in one word? Byron Scott in one word is relatable. He never makes you feel like he's above you, even though he is. He obviously had an unbelievable career. He won multiple rings with the Lakers, NBA Coach of the Year, coach in 3 different cities, coached the Nets, coached in New Orleans, coached the Lakers. He's set for life with money. Never see him be mean to anybody, never seen him talk down to anybody. By the way, he's the type of guy, you see him in an airport, he'll talk to you for 20 minutes. Really good dude.
Yeah. Now we're going to switch over to coaches.
Okay.
Describe Phil Jackson in one word.
Zen. The one thing I've learned from him is stay in the moment. He is a complicated guy, but the one thing I learned from Phil is don't be worried about what happened to you yesterday. Don't be looking ahead to tomorrow. Enjoy the journey. Stay in the moment. Like right now, I am completely 100% focused on you, on the Big Baby podcast. That's all I care about. I got that from Phil. Phil is very good at staying enjoy the moment that you're in, because once it's gone, you can't get it back. So what I learned from him is live in the moment, which is a really good way to live your life.
Most definitely. Pat Riley.
Disciplined. He wants you to be a little uncomfortable. And he knows the way that you can get to the top of the mountain is if you're willing to sacrifice both mentally and physically, and you're willing to do things for the team rather than for yourself. Even the guys who played for him, the guys like Michael and Byron and Magic and AC Green, well, I'll tell you, he was tough on them, but they love him because he brought them great success. He's the most disciplined coach figure in any sport I've ever met.
Greg Popovich.
Greg Popovich is he doesn't care what you think. Greg Popovich is confident. I'll put it that way. He's himself 100% of the time, and doesn't care if you don't like him, doesn't care if you disagree with him, would come on this podcast and yell at you if you asked him a stupid question, even though you've never met him. Yeah. So that's what I would say about Pop.
Yep, Greg Popovich would probably, you're right, probably yell at me and probably just take off if I answer him crazy question. Out. Yeah. Probably. Yeah. Eric Spoelstra.
Underrated. Again, if he stopped coaching today, Jonathan, he'd be in the Hall of Fame. And I don't know if many people know that. I think Spo, if you ask me I'd put him ahead of Pop. If you ask me who's the greatest tactical coach in the NBA right now, I would say Eric Spoelstra.
Steve Kerr.
Boy, that's another guy that's one of the great guys of all time. Steve is about more than basketball. So what I would say about Steve Kerr is he is a but I don't want to duck your challenge of coming up with one word. What one word would I use to describe Steve Kerr? Surprising, I think. On the outside, you can tell he's obviously a good coach. He's going to coach the Olympic team this year, but he's a real Renaissance man. His dad was a former history professor, was assassinated at American University in Beirut. That happened when I was at UCLA. I was in a history class that day, and the professor shut down the class, and we talked for an hour about Malcolm Kerr, Steve's dad. He's been a great announcer, was a great player. He was a GM. He's been a coach. I could see Steve Kerr one day being like governor of California if he wanted to do it. He's that layered.
Yeah, most definitely, man. But before I get up on here, John, I just want to say thank you for coming on, man. Also, too, I had you when I first started this podcasting journey as written down as one of my goals for you to come on this podcast. 2016, I was like, I had John Ireland, Dwight Howard, Ron Artest, Byron Scott, Mike Trudell, Chris McGee, and the late great Kobe. I had all on the list, and the one that's not crossed off is Kobe. It's unfortunate, but thank you for coming on Big Baby Sports, man. I appreciate
Jonathan,
you.
I appreciate you having me, man. Good luck with your show, and have a great day.
You too.